welcome to the Sterling Net Point Power Ranking Show. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. My co-pilot here is Benjamin Dickerson. And we're just going to present the information for the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Now, just as a quick overview, Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, which you can find on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, is where we look at the win margins of teams and use that as our ranking criteria, or win margin or net points. In other words, the team with the highest win margin, let's say you've been winning your games by an average of 30 points, 30-0 and all that kind of good stuff. And there's nobody else winning like that, you would be in first place. The next person winning by an average of, say, 25 points might be in second place. And so we're ranking based on an objective statistic, okay? No opinion, no conjecture, and then we just go from there. Now, the net points is the difference between the points scored and the points allowed. So you'll see those also because they're important to understand, the strengths and weaknesses of some of these teams. And then lastly, ATOD, average turnover differential, because turnovers lead to points, and we include that in our mathematical equation. So, Benny, let's get ready to start off with the first part. And oh, by the way, I do have both the season statistic and the last 3 weeks statistic here. So we have a little bit of both of those. All right, let's start out with ANP for average net points. Again, this is inclusive through week 16. We haven't played week 17. That's what's coming up. We always like to acknowledge the number one team, and in the first place for average net points is Seattle for the season. For the last 3 weeks, however, is Jacksonville. Benny, I'm hearing a lot of Jacksonville talk all of a sudden on the radio and on TV, In second place, you have the Rams, 10. And again, these can go both positive and negative. So the Rams are plus 10.5. Third place, New England, plus 7.3. Then Jacksonville, plus 6.5. And Houston at fifth place, ranked with the same number, plus 6.5. On the last 3 weeks, however, you got Jacksonville, you got my beloved 49ers at plus 17.5, Minnesota plus 14, Philly plus 13, and the Rams at plus 11.3. As you look down the season, you see Buffalo through Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in 16th place at plus 1. You'll see a number of teams that are no longer pretty much playoff contenders. Philadelphia, being the returning Super Bowl champion, is in 12th place for the season at plus 4 points. On the other side, Philly is plus 13, and that's because they had a couple of really big games. That one game against the Raiders took advantage of them boys. So follow that on the last three. You got the Rams, Houston, Seattle, all tough teams. New Orleans, all of a sudden, God, what's his last name is Shook, their quarterback down in New Orleans.
That is correct.
That young man is starting to settle in a little bit, I think. Chicago, which is my intriguing team this year. LA Chargers, Pittsburgh at plus 7.7. New England at plus 6. And that's because they had a little struggle with those Bills. Baltimore plus 5. Speaking of those Bills, plus 4. Tennessee plus 2, and Carolina at plus 1. Over the last 3 weeks, Carolina is not even in the top half for the season. So that means they're ascending. Benny, what do you got?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about teams like Minnesota, and looks like they're probably and New Orleans, they seem to be playing really well over the last 3 weeks, but it's a little too late because they've already been eliminated from the playoffs. Therefore, that makes them official spoilers and their teams to watch out for, because they seem to be, even though it's late in the season, getting control of their offense. The coach is getting through to them, either or possibly some injured players have come back. Either way, they become dangerous to some teams that are fighting for position. So where they match up over the next 2 weeks could really be important. But the solid numbers on the left-hand column is the season numbers, and those are the more, I don't want to say accurate because all the numbers are accurate for the time that they take place. But as you can see, Seattle being at the top at 10.9 net point, I'm sorry, 10.9 points per game is pretty normal over the course of a season for a high ranked team. Same thing with the Rams. But over the last 3 weeks, just like Minnesota and New Orleans have been ascending, but doesn't really mean anything unless they upset somebody that is vying for playoff position. The hot team club is Jacksonville and San Fran and Philadelphia. Rams are kind of holding on there, and Houston. So those are the teams that have plenty to play for still, because the first round bye comes with the division title. So those titles haven't been won over yet 100%, even though some of these teams have clinched playoff spots. Still a lot going on for the last 2 weeks of the season coming up.
Hot team club, eh?
That's what I'm calling them. The get hot at the right time club. That's it.
Would you include Chicago in that? I didn't hear you mention that.
But I would probably include Chicago in that, although they've been rolling pretty smooth for a while now.
Yeah, but everything comes down to some heavy drama with Chicago, man. I mean, these guys, first of all, retrieving an onside kick, who does that? 8% probability to complete that. So, yeah, those guys, again, just my intriguing team. And just so happens they're on the schedule this weekend. So we'll talk about that a little later. So that's the top half, Benny. Let's take a quick look at the bottom half. There is a bottom half here from 17 to 32. Some of the teams that really don't want to be over here. So look at the season side. You're going to say Baltimore, Minnesota, Tampa Bay. Minnesota, I feel kind of sorry for them. They looked like they were getting ready to do something, and now their quarterback's injured again. So we'll see how that goes. Dallas at -2, and that Dallas is the team with the greatest differential in ranking between their offense and their defense, I do believe. As I look down, the 27, 28, 29, the Jets, and last place you have the Las Vegas Raiders. For the season so far, just a tad below the Tennessee Titans. On the last 3 weeks side, Detroit and Denver are still in the positive at 17th and 18th, but they're just fractions of one in the positive. And then the rest of the teams are all in the negative. Let's see. There's your Dallas Cowboys at -13. Indianapolis at -13.3. Told you I didn't believe in them guys, didn't I, Benny? It's these last 3 week stats on the Colts that made me a disbeliever. So there you go down to the bottom, and the Jets are -25. That means they're losing by an average of 25 points per game. Any comment on the bottom half here?
I think it's kind of funny that the Colts miss Daniel Jones off a lot. I mean,
Okay.
you can say what you want to say about how he played in the last few games or last game or so before he got injured, but they did start off 8-2. So
Okay.
you can't ignore that. Um, Teams on the season side that don't want to be here and probably will be their undoing. Well, Baltimore, it will almost definitely be their undoing. In fact, I'm pretty sure they've been eliminated. Tampa Bay still has a fighting chance. They can get things right if they turn it around quickly. They're number 19 over the season, but they haven't helped themselves as much as they should have over the last 3 weeks, sitting at 21. Everybody else is pretty much done.
Stick a fork in them.
Stick a fork in them.
Yeah. Let's look at the offenses real quick. Points for and points for the last 3. So your number one team in scoring season-wise at this particular point, including through week 16 is the Los Angeles Rams, putting up an average of 30.5 points per game. Those same Rams, however, Benny, in the last 3 weeks are putting up an average of 41 points per game. Holy mackerel. Detroit putting up 30, Seattle 29.5, Buffalo 28.9, and Dallas 28.3, rounding out the top five. Over in the last 3 weeks, again, you got the Rams, Jacksonville, my Niners, 37 points per game over the last 3 weeks. That's crazy. Detroit and Buffalo, 34 and 32.3. So in terms of scoring, those are your top five. As you go down the list here, you'll see you have your 27-point range with Indianapolis, New England, and Jacksonville. My Niners coming in ninth at 26.1. Chicago, 25.8 is the top 10. And again, why I consider them intriguing, that you have all of a sudden this team that looked really dysfunctional last year, now all of a sudden in the top 10 in scoring. And the way they do it, I think, is even more impressive. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Pittsburgh tied with Green Bay. That's interesting. Denver, 24.1. Cincinnati, 23, tied with Baltimore. And rounding out the top half, LA Chargers, 23.3. Over on the last three side, from 6 down, you have Seattle, New England in that 30-point range. Pittsburgh, 28 points. Old man Rodgers, 27.7, 27 and 27 for Houston, Minnesota, Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia tied the last 3 weeks in terms of their scoring. Just a little bit above Denver, and Chicago's at 24.7 over the last 3 weeks, and Dallas, 24.3. So there's your top scorers, Benny, for the season and for the last 3 weeks. What do you like about this crew?
I tell you what, I I shouldn't say this, so I'm going to say it a different way. I'll tell you what I don't like. I'm looking over on the season side, over on the left, and if my eyes don't deceive me, I don't see Philadelphia there. Then I go over to the right side for what's happening in the last 3 weeks, and this is why they're not in the get hot at the right time club, because they're sitting at number 13 over the last 3 weeks. So they get off their 3-game losing streak and they get on a 3-game winning streak, and they're still, and I say only, putting up, what is that, 26.3 points per game?
Yeah.
Yeah. The real explosive offenses are doing twice as well, darn near twice as well. So again, I know it keeps sounding like I'm trying to talk doom and gloom about the Eagles, but don't be shocked, y'all. Don't be shocked.
Well, that's a part of it. That's why we look at these numbers to see where people, are actually relative to points. Let's look at the bottom half of scoring. There's your Philly Benny at number 17, putting up 23.3 points per game for the season. Just a little bit ahead of Tampa Bay and Houston. Kansas City, Arizona, Miami, your Giants, 20.9. Washington, Atlanta, Minnesota, Carolina, and the Jets. New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, and in last place in scoring, only putting up 14.5 points per game, is Las Vegas. And I'm sure they got some skew from the shutout that they suffered at the hands of Philadelphia. So that's going to really push their numbers down. Over the last 3 weeks, we talked a little bit about New Orleans. You got your Chargers, Carolina, Green Bay, Baltimore, Miami, Tampa Bay. That's all above 22 points. Atlanta, Indianapolis at 20.7 points per game. Arizona, Cleveland, your Giants, Washington, Vegas, the Jets, and in last place over the last 3 weeks, the Kansas City Chiefs. Down to, I do believe, their third quarterback. Am I right about that?
Off the practice squad.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Anything on this group?
Nah. Philly,
Tied
Philly at number 17 at 23.3. Can I see the top half again?
with the
Last three
Chargers.
last 3 weeks, 26.3. So over the last 3 weeks, they're only a field goal better than they've been all season.
That's interesting.
Mm.
That's interesting. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say?
And Jake Elliott's going in the tank.
Ha!
Speaking of field goals,
The kicker. It's a stretch. He'll be okay. He'll be okay.
sure, I'm sure he will.
I don't know. All right, let's move on. Defense. Defence. Defense. In first place for the season, the Houston Texans. Oh man, that's a buzzsaw defense right there. Buzzsaw. Now, in first place for the last 3 weeks, the Minnesota Vikings. Little surprised. Second place for the season, Seattle. Then third place, Philly at 19.3. Kansas City 19.6, and rounding out the top five, Denver at 19.7. Your top five for the last 3 weeks is Minnesota. There's Philly again. Your Saints, Chicago. If Chicago get their defense together, man, this game is going to be tough coming up for me. And then in fifth place, the LA Chargers. There's your top five season and last three, Benny. Bottom half of the top half of defense. Chargers, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Minnesota, San Fran. Tied with Minnesota, at 21.3. Carolina, New Orleans, Buffalo, and Baltimore. Got the hiccups here. So Buffalo down there at 15th place in terms of defense, giving up 22.9. For the last three, once you get past fifth place with the Chargers, you have Houston, 17 points, pretty much where they are for the season. Baltimore, Jacksonville, 19.7 points. Where are they at on the other side? 10th, 20 points per game. So they actually improved that a little bit. My Niners tied with Jacksonville, 19.7. Pittsburgh, Seattle, tied with Kansas City. Carolina, New England, 24.7 points per game for New England, Benny. And that's a little bit worse than what they have for the season at 20. They're 7th. So they dropped a little bit. Tennessee, 25, and Tampa Bay, 25.3. There's your top half of your defense average points against. What do you got?
I like Jacksonville playing real steady, 19.7 over the last 3 weeks, and about almost exactly 1 point better over the course of the season. So they're going strong, steady, consistent. Niners, we're looking at 19.7 over the last 3 weeks, 21.3 for the season. Again, pretty steady. Not too bad, not too bad at all. Those teams, along with Philadelphia, who is hanging their hat on their defense right about now, and the big surge by Chicago, I think, is what you were looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you're getting it, and if they can hold that up, like I said, there's a lot of. In fact, off the top of my head, I have to double check my stuff here in between shows. I think the Eagles are the only team that has actually clinched their division.
Yeah, they did clinch their division. I do remember seeing that in
I
the
believe they're the only team that has clinched their division.
okay.
If I'm not mistaken, every other division title is going to come down to these last two games.
Yeah, you're right.
That's amazing.
You're right. You're right. All right. That's the top half of defense. There is a bottom half, Benny. All right, Benny, let's look at the bottom half of defense here. kicking it off with Pittsburgh in 17th place for the season and Denver in 17th place for the last 3 weeks, tied with Green Bay at 25.7. For the season, we go from Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Chicago at 23.6 points per game, and that's been a move up for them. Cleveland, Atlanta, Miami, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Vegas, Tennessee, Washington, the Giants, Arizona, Jets, Dallas, and next to last place, that's 0.2 points ahead of Cincinnati. But over the last 3 weeks, let's see. Again, Denver is in 17th place, tied with Green Bay at 25.7 points per game. Vegas and the Giants tied at 26. Washington at 27. Miami, 27.7. Atlanta and Cincinnati, 28. Buffalo and Cleveland, 28.3. Your Rams in 27th place. Now, that's an interesting stat for the Rams. I'm a little surprised to see now that for the last 2 weeks, giving up an average of 29.7 points per game. Detroit, I'm not so surprised. They give up points. So they get in scoring wars and stuff. Indianapolis, Arizona, tied with the Jets, and Dallas for the last 3 weeks, and last place, allowing an average of 37.3 points per game. Sheesh. Okay. What do you think about this group?
Well, sir, it's not looking great. Hard to win games when you give up 24, 25, 26 plus points per game. Even over the last 3. Now, I will give Denver a pardon. They've been in a lot of close games. Some they've really held teams down. Some they've given up a good number of points and still come back and win from behind. But that's only going to go take you so far. And it's taken them a really long way. I mean, they've won a bunch of close games. They had a long winning streak, but it finally caught up with them. And it caught up with them over the last 3 weeks. So I'm not surprised to see them where they are, but I expect them to rebound from it. Green Bay cannot afford to be giving up those kind of points. Over the last 3 weeks has not been kind to Green Bay, especially now since their quarterback is injured. Any other contenders here? Buffalo. Okay. They're giving up points, but they got Superman on their team. So until he loses his cape, they're probably going to be okay. Same thing with the Rams. Matt Stafford is like super hot. I mean, he can't do nothing wrong. But defensively, they can't seem to stop anybody all of a sudden. So I don't know if that's going to be enough to hold them down, but that's a lot of points they gave up in the last 3 weeks.
This is
So
an interesting clump of defenders who are all playoff contenders.
yeah, to be
Buffalo,
this low.
Buffalo, the Rams, and Detroit. In that little clump there.
Yeah, very, very lopsided between offense and defense.
Yeah, exactly. Not as bad as Dallas, but that
Well,
is they
nobody
are on
cares
the
about
bottom half
Dallas.
of the last 3 weeks.
Nobody cares about Dallas.
Always good for a laugh. What are you talking about? Dallas. All right. Our next stat, average turnover differential. We love the turnovers. And Chicago's been holding on to that first place for the season for a while now, Benny, weeks and weeks and weeks. They're followed by, they're at plus 1.4 and followed by Houston at plus 1. The Rams and Jacksonville at plus 0.8 and Detroit at plus 0.7. That's for the season, top 5. Top 5 for the last 3 weeks. Houston and Jacksonville tied at 2, plus 2 turnovers on average per game. Then Detroit comes in at plus 1.7 and Chicago plus 1.3, tied with the Chargers and Buffalo at plus 1.3. So then you got a +1 down to seventh, eighth place for the last 3 weeks, where that was second place over the season. New Orleans, San Fran, Tennessee, all at plus 0.7. Glad to see my Niners in the top half. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Giants, and Minnesota all tied at 0 plus 0.3 turnover differential.
Coordinator is Josh Grizzard.
And New England is at 0, breaking even as for the season on the left-hand side. Arizona, New England, and Carolina all breaking even. So New England's breaking even for the season, breaking even for the last 3 weeks. That's what you call steady Eddie. What do you got on this group, Eddie?
Very steady, very steady. Houston Texans, Jacksonville, Chicago's on the upswing. But they kind of been, I'm sorry, they're not on the upswing. They're at the top for the course over the course of the season,
Right.
and have only dropped to number 4 over the last 3 weeks. That's their saving grace. They might not look great as far as points against are concerned when you look at them defensively, but they take the ball away, man. They take the ball away. And Ben Johnson has got Caleb Williams taking care of the ball. And that's the difference. That's what gets them up there in turnover differential. Let me see who else is really sticking out here. Again, low ranked in points against over the last 3 weeks, but taking the ball away. Buffalo.
Yeah, punching that
Niners.
ball out.
Niners on the upswing. So again, this is the time you want to do it. This is the time of the season that you want to do it. And there's going to be even more going on because these division races are so tight and they're going down to the wire. Usually by week 16, we have at least 2 or 3 divisions locked up. Now we're going into week 17, and some of them might not be done till week 18, which is kind of good. I hate it when teams have everything locked up and they don't have anything to play for. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of that this season because along with fighting for division titles comes fighting for seeds. And you want to get as high a seed as you can. So winning becomes extremely important.
All right. Well, let's finish off turnover differential by looking at number 17 through 32. Most of these teams are pretty much out of it, except for Seattle, my Niners. For the season, down to 22nd and 23rd, tied at minus 0.3. Let's see. Tennessee, Giants, Vegas, Miami, Cleveland, Dallas, Washington, Minnesota, and the Jets. So none of those other teams are really in contention. On the other side, for the last 3 weeks, Baltimore and Seattle breaking even. Tampa Bay, Philly, and Denver and Miami tied at minus 0.3. So that ain't good for a Super Bowl team to be on the minus, even though it's a small minus. Green Bay, Arizona, and Las Vegas. Green Bay wants to be a contender, but that minus 0.7 tied with Arizona, and Vegas is not good.
Not good at all.
Atlanta and Dallas -1. Indianapolis minus 1.3 tied with Kansas City and Washington. And rounding out 31st and 32nd place is Cleveland and New York Jets tied at -2. So I'm sure you have a few short remarks for the bottom half of turnover differential teams.
Well, if I look at the season standings, the only thing that catches my eye is San Francisco being as low as they are, but they've improved so much over the last 3 weeks, I give them a pass. There's no other contender. Oh, Seattle, same deal. Although they haven't come up as well as the Niners have, they are above where they were over the course of the season over the last 3 weeks. So again, good enough improvement to keep them afloat and make them very dangerous for what it is that they're going after immediately, which is that NFC West title. Hotly contested, tight over there, very tight.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. This last couple games, as I said, for my Niners are both going to be tough games. So, Benny, that wraps up the Sterling net point power rankings. We looked at average net points, average points for, average points against, and average turnover differential. Any final comments before we move on?
Nah, everything seems to be rolling along pretty smoothly here. Cream is rising to the top as it usually does.
All righty, all righty. Well, again, this is the Sterling net point power rankings. Our website is www.sterlingnppr.com. If you're on YouTube, please remember to click the notification button and the notification bell and the subscriber button. There you go. I got that right, Benny. Peace.